The manila envelope slid across our polished oak dining table, stopping at my fingertips like a death sentence. My son Tyler's voice cracked through the silence. "You're not part of this family," he shouted, his eyes no longer the warm honey color I'd cherished for 23 years, but cold amber stones boring into my soul. The DNA test results spilled out as my hand trembled, black letters swimming before my tear-filled eyes. That's when I knew. The lie I'd protected for decades was now exposed in percentages and genetic markers. I never meant for it to go this far. Never imagined I'd be sitting here, in our suburban Portland home, watching my carefully constructed life disintegrate like wet paper. The grandfather clock in the corner, a wedding present from my mother-in-law, ticked away mercilessly, marking each second of unbearable silence after Tyler's outburst. "How long have you known?" Richard, my husband of 25 years, whispered, his voice so unnaturally calm it sent shivers down my spine. I could see his knuckles turning white as he gripped the edge of the table. Outside, spring rain pattered against the windows, the gentle sound a cruel contrast to the storm raging inside our dining room. "Dad, she's been lying to us our entire lives," Tyler insisted, his college graduation photo on the wall behind him, a stark reminder of all the milestones we'd shared. "I only did that stupid ancestry test because of biology class. I never expected..." His voice broke, and for a moment, I saw my little boy again, the one who would run to me with skinned knees and trust me to make everything better. But I couldn't make this better. The truth lay between us like broken glass. Richard stood up suddenly, his chair scraping harshly against the hardwood floor. "I need some air," he muttered, not looking at me as he grabbed his keys from the hook by the door. The slam that followed made the family photos on our wall rattle, happy moments frozen in time, moments that now felt like elaborate productions rather than memories. "You should go too," Tyler said, his voice flat as he stared at me like I was a stranger who had wandered into his home. "I can't even look at you right now." My hands shook as I reached for him, but he recoiled. "Please, let me explain." "Explain what? That my DNA doesn't match Dad's? That I'm..." He choked on the words. "Not who I thought I was? What could you possibly say that would make this okay?" The ceiling fan whirred overhead, its soft hum filling the silence between us. On the refrigerator, Tyler's childhood artwork still hung, magnetic memories of a simpler time. I could smell the lasagna I'd prepared earlier that evening, now cold and forgotten on the kitchen counter. This was supposed to be a casual family dinner, a celebration of Tyler's midterm successes. Instead, it had become the night my family discovered I wasn't who they thought I was. "Tyler, please," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the rain. "There's so much you don't understand." He laughed, a hollow sound that bore no resemblance to his usual warm chuckle. "What I understand is that my entire life has been a lie. And you..." He pointed a finger that trembled slightly, betraying the hurt beneath his anger. "You're the one who's been telling it." I watched as my son, my beautiful boy with his father's height and someone else's eyes, gathered the test results and stuffed them back into the envelope. Without another word, he walked upstairs, each footstep like a hammer striking my heart. His bedroom door closed with a decisive click that echoed through our suddenly empty-feeling house. Alone at the table where we'd shared thousands of meals, celebrated birthdays, helped with homework and built a family, I sat motionless. The weight of 23 years of secrets pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. Outside, I heard the familiar rumble of Richard's car starting. Through the window, I watched headlights illuminate the rain-slicked street as he drove away, taking with him the certainty that he would return. The house I'd made into a home now felt like a museum of lies. Every photograph, every memento, suddenly questionable. I traced my finger along a water ring on the table, a perfect circle, unlike the messy truth I'd have to unravel. The truth that started with a summer in Savannah before I met Richard. The truth about choices made by a desperate young woman. The truth about love, sacrifice, and the terrible cost of secrets. What they didn't know, couldn't possibly understand yet, was that every lie I'd told had been to protect them. And now, with everything exposed, I would have to find a way to make them see that sometimes the deepest love comes disguised as deception. My name is Eleanor Mitchell, Ellie to most, mom to one, and wife to a man who may never come home again. At 52, I had thought I was past life-shattering revelations. I teach English literature at Portland Community College, live in a comfortable 4-bedroom colonial in Beaverton, and until yesterday, believed I had successfully buried my past beneath layers of suburban normalcy. My morning routine hadn't changed in 15 years. Wake at 5:30 a.m., brew French press coffee, grade papers at the kitchen island while watching the sunrise paint our backyard maple tree golden. By 7, I'd have breakfast ready for Richard. Steel-cut oatmeal with blueberries on weekdays, Belgian waffles on Sundays. We were that couple, predictable, steady, reliable. But this morning, I sat alone in our kitchen. Richard's side of the bed remained undisturbed, his reading glasses still perched on his nightstand where he'd left them before yesterday's disastrous dinner. I checked my phone for the 12th time. No calls, no texts. His toothbrush was still in our bathroom, giving me a sliver of hope that his departure wasn't permanent. Through the kitchen window, I could see Mrs. Henderson walking her corgi, oblivious to the fact that my world had imploded. The normality of the outside world felt like a personal affront. Sprinklers activating on perfectly manicured lawns, newspaper delivery vans making their rounds, joggers in color-coordinated activewear passing by our driveway where Richard's car should have been parked. I jumped when my phone vibrated, but it was just a reminder about today's faculty meeting. I would have to call in sick. The thought of facing colleagues, of maintaining the facade of normalcy while my personal life crumbled, was unimaginable. Upstairs, I heard movement. Tyler was awake. My stomach clenched. Would he speak to me today? Or would I remain a ghost in my own home, avoided and unacknowledged? I quickly wiped away tears, a habit formed from years of showing strength I didn't always feel. I'd given everything to this family. When Richard's architecture firm struggled during the recession, I took on extra classes, tutored on weekends, edited academic papers by night. When Tyler needed braces, I sold my grandmother's antique jewelry, the only heirloom I had. When Richard's mother needed hospice care, I was the one who moved her into our guest room, bathed her, read to her, held her hand until she drew her last breath. My sacrifices were made willingly, joyfully even, because they built and protected this family, my refuge from a past filled with uncertainty and shame, a past that had now caught up with me, threatening to sweep away everything I'd built. The stairs creaked under Tyler's weight. I held my breath as he appeared in the kitchen doorway, his tall frame filling the space. His eyes, swollen from what must have been a sleepless night, avoided mine as he headed straight for the refrigerator. "Tyler," I began softly, "can we talk?" He poured orange juice directly from the carton, something I'd gently scolded him for 1,000 times, and finally looked at me. The coldness in his gaze made me flinch. "About what, Mom? Or should I even call you that anymore?" His words sliced through me, leaving wounds deeper than any physical pain I'd ever experienced. "I have been your mother every day of your life," I whispered, hands trembling around my coffee mug. "Nothing can change that. Not biology, not DNA, not anything." Tyler scoffed, leaning against the counter we'd picked out together during the kitchen renovation 3 years ago. "Did my real mother not want me? Was I just some unwanted baby you took in? Or did you—" His voice caught. "Did you cheat on Dad?" The simplicity of his questions belied the complex truth. How could I explain that love and betrayal sometimes wore the same face? That youth and desperation could lead to choices that rippled through decades? "Your father hasn't returned my calls," I said, changing the subject. "Do you know where he is?" "Uncle Steve's, probably," Tyler replied, mentioning Richard's brother who lived across town. "He texted me last night, said he needed time to think. He took a long drink of juice before adding, he asked if I wanted to come stay there too." My heart sank. "And do you want to stay there?" Tyler set the juice carton down with unnecessary force. "I have a biochemistry final tomorrow. I need to study." Not a yes, not a no, just a statement of fact that avoided the question entirely. Through the open window, I could hear the familiar sound of our neighbor's wind chimes, delicate silver tubes that played random melodies with each breeze. I'd always found the sound soothing, but today each note seemed to mock the dissonance of my life. "I never meant to hurt you," I said. The words inadequate, but all I had. "Either of you." "But you did, Mom. You lied. For years." Tyler ran a hand through his dark hair. So like Richard's, it made my chest ache. "Was anything real? All those times you told me how much I looked like Dad? How I had his stubbornness, his talent for math? Was it all just some elaborate performance?" I shook my head, remembering the nights I'd spent watching baby Tyler sleep, tracing his tiny features and searching for resemblances that weren't there, inventing connections to solidify a falsehood. You do have his stubbornness, I said softly. Biology isn't everything, Tyler. Richard raised you. He taught you to ride a bike and helped with your science fair projects and cheered at every baseball game. He is your father in every way that matters. Except he's not, Tyler said flatly. And you let us both believe he was. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, then grabbed his backpack from the counter. That's Jessica. She's picking me up for study group. Jessica, his girlfriend of 3 months, another detail of his life that now seemed from a different reality. Will you be home for dinner? I asked, hating how pathetic and hopeful my voice sounded. Don't wait up, he replied, already heading for the door. As it closed behind him, I was left alone in the kitchen that had been the heart of our family home. On the refrigerator door, held by magnets from various family vacations, hung photos documenting Tyler's life, from infancy to college. Richard and I beamed in many of them, proud parents of our only child. What they didn't show was the fear that had lived inside me for 23 years. Fear that this day would come, that the truth would emerge from the shadows where I'd confined it. They didn't show the nights I'd lain awake beside Richard, silently rehearsing explanations I prayed I'd never have to give. Now those explanations would no longer be hypothetical. They would be the words that either saved my family or permanently shattered it. And I had no idea which outcome awaited me. The first betrayal came not with Tyler's announcement or Richard's departure, but with a phone call 3 hours later. I was mindlessly folding laundry, a task that usually calmed me, but now felt like arranging deck chairs on the Titanic, when my cell phone lit up with Steve's number. Richard's brother rarely called me directly, so seeing his name sent a surge of hope through me. Perhaps Richard was ready to talk. Steve, thank God. Is Richard... He doesn't want to speak to you right now, Ellie. Steve's voice was cold, formal, lacking the warmth that had characterized our relationship for 25 years. I'm calling because he asked me to. My fingers tightened around a half-folded t-shirt, one of Richard's favorites, worn soft from years of use. Steve, please, I need to explain. Explain what exactly? He cut in. How you've been lying to my brother for your entire marriage. How you passed off another man's child as his. Each word was precise, calculated to wound. Richard told me everything. I sank onto the edge of our bed, the bed where Richard and I had spent thousands of nights, sharing dreams and fears, making love and plans for the future. It's more complicated than that, I whispered. It always is with you, isn't it, Ellie? The contempt in his voice was new. Always the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect sister-in-law. We all thought you were so damn flawless. Even Mom adored you. Said Richard was lucky to find you. The mention of Catherine, my late mother-in-law, sent a wave of shame through me. She had indeed loved me, had welcomed me into the family with open arms, and never once questioned if I was good enough for her son. I loved Catherine, I said softly. I loved, all of you. Steve's bitter laugh crackled through the phone. Save it. Here's what's going to happen. Richard's staying with me for now. He's talking to a lawyer tomorrow. A lawyer? The words felt like ice water in my veins. Steve, no, he can't. Can't what? Divorce you? After what you did? His voice rose. What did you expect, Ellie? That he'd just forgive and forget? That he'd embrace raising another man's child as if it was some cute little mix-up? Tyler is his son, I insisted, tears flowing freely now, in every way that matters, except biologically. And you knew that all along, didn't you? The accusation hung between us. 23 years, Ellie. You've been living a lie for 23 years. Through the bedroom window, I could see our garden, the rose bushes Richard had planted for our 20th anniversary, the hammock where we'd spent countless Sunday afternoons reading side by side, evidence of a life built together, brick by brick. I need to speak to him, I pleaded. Just 5 minutes, Steve. Please. He doesn't want that. Not yet. There was a pause, and when Steve spoke again, his voice had lost some of its edge. Look, I've known you a long time, Ellie. You're not a bad person, but what you did to my brother, I can't forgive that, and I don't think he can either. The finality in his tone struck me like a physical blow. Will you at least tell him something for me? What? The wariness was evident. Tell him I never stopped loving him. Not for a single day. After a long pause, Steve sighed. I'll tell him. But don't call here, Ellie. He'll contact you if he's ready. The call ended. leaving me clutching Richard's shirt to my chest like a lifeline. In the quiet aftermath, I realized my hands were shaking. Not just my hands. My entire body trembled with the force of suppressed sobs. For years, I'd feared this scenario. Richard learning the truth, Richard leaving, Richard hating me. But in my imagination, I'd at least been able to explain, to defend myself, to make him understand the choice I'd made as a terrified 29-year-old who'd found herself pregnant after a relationship that had ended months before she met the love of her life. Instead, I was being shut out, judged and condemned without trial. My side of the story deemed irrelevant in the face of the tangible evidence that Tyler, our beloved son, did not share Richard's DNA. The house phone rang, startling me from my thoughts. I rushed to answer it, hope flaring once more. "Mrs. Mitchell? This is Principal Donovan from Westview High." The formal voice of Tyler's former high school principal confused me momentarily. "I'm calling about the Alumni Fundraiser Committee. I had forgotten. I was supposed to chair next month's meeting. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm dealing with a family emergency," I managed to say, my voice cracking. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is everything all right?" The banality of the question in the face of my collapsing life almost made me laugh. Was everything all right? My husband had left me. My son could barely look at me, and my brother-in-law had just informed me that divorce papers were imminent. "No," I said simply. "Everything is not all right." After ending the call, I wandered through our empty house like a ghost. In the hallway, family portraits chronicled our lives together. Beach vacations in Cannon Beach, Tyler's high school graduation, our 20th anniversary party. In each photo, we smiled at the camera, the perfect family. No hint of the secret I carried. I stopped at a particular photo, Tyler at age 6, sitting on Richard's shoulders at a Trailblazers game. Both wore matching jerseys and identical expressions of joy. Richard had never questioned why Tyler's eyes were hazel instead of blue like his, why their jawlines differed, why Tyler showed artistic talent when Richard could barely draw a straight line. He had simply loved the boy as his own, because he believed he was. My phone chimed with a text message. For a heartbeat, I thought it might be Richard. Instead, it was from Megan, my closest friend since moving to Portland. "Coffee tomorrow? Haven't heard from you in days." My thumb hovered over the screen. What would I say to Megan? To any of our friends? The thought of explaining what had happened, of seeing pity or judgment in their eyes, was unbearable. But the alternative, isolation in my shame and grief, seemed equally impossible. Before I could respond, another text came through. This one from Tyler. "Staying at Jessica's tonight. Need space. 3 facts, delivered with clinical detachment." My son, who once couldn't fall asleep without my goodnight kiss, now couldn't bear to be under the same roof as me. The distance between us measured not in miles, but in shattered trust. As evening fell, I found myself in Tyler's room, breathing in the lingering scent of his cologne. His space was a testament to the person he'd become. Engineering textbooks stacked neatly on the desk, basketball trophies on the shelf, concert posters on the walls, evidence of the fine young man Richard and I had raised together. On his nightstand sat a framed photo from last Christmas, the 3 of us in matching pajamas, laughing by the tree. I picked it up, tracing Richard's face with my fingertip. We had been happy. That wasn't a lie. The doorbell's sudden chime sent my heart racing. "Richard? Tyler?" I rushed downstairs, hope blooming painfully in my chest. But when I opened the door, it wasn't my husband or son standing on our porch. It was a woman I'd never seen before, her expensive coat and perfectly styled blonde hair marking her as a stranger to our middle-class neighborhood. "Eleanor Mitchell?" she asked, her voice carrying a southern accent that immediately transported me back 24 years, to a summer in Savannah I'd spent decades trying to forget. "Yes," I answered cautiously. "Can I help you?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I believe you can. My name is Charlotte Davis. I'm James's wife, James." A name I hadn't spoken aloud in 23 years. A name that belonged to the past, to moonlit nights on Tybee Island, and promises neither of us had kept. Tyler's biological father. "I think," Charlotte said, her smile hardening. "We have quite a lot to discuss, don't you?" "May I come in?" Charlotte asked, the politeness of her tone belied by the steel in her eyes. Without waiting for an answer, she stepped past me into the entryway, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood floor. I closed the door, my mind racing. How had she found me? What did she want? And most importantly, Did she know about Tyler? In the living room, Charlotte surveyed our family photographs with unnerving interest, lingering on those featuring Tyler. He has his father's eyes, she remarked casually, as if discussing the weather. I always wondered where Amber got her coloring. Now I know. Amber? The name slipped out before I could stop it. Our daughter. Charlotte turned to face me fully. James and I have been married for 22 years. Amber is 19, a sophomore at Emory. Her smile was tight. We also have twin boys, 16. One big, happy family. I gestured weakly toward the sofa. Please, sit down. Would you like some coffee or... I'm not here for pleasantries, Eleanor. She remained standing, one manicured hand resting on the back of the armchair. I'm here because James received a rather interesting notification from one of those DNA testing services last week. Apparently, he has a son he never knew about. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. I steadied myself against the wall. How did you find me? Money opens many doors. Charlotte shrugged elegantly. And James kept a journal during that summer you spent together. You were quite memorable, it seems. Summer, 1999. I was 29, fresh from a painful divorce from my college sweetheart, trying to rebuild my life. I'd taken a temporary teaching position at a summer writing workshop in Savannah, Georgia, about as far from my Seattle home as I could get. James Davis had been one of my students, older than the others at 33, talented, charming, with those distinctive hazel eyes that now stared out from Tyler's face. Our relationship had been brief, but intense. A summer fling that ended when I returned to Seattle in August. I never told him I was pregnant. By the time I realized, we'd been apart for weeks, and I'd already met Richard at a friend's gallery opening. Kind, steady, brilliant Richard, who made me laugh and held my hand through museum exhibits, who talked about architecture with such passion, it made my heart swell. You never told him, Charlotte said. Not a question, but an accusation. You let another man raise James's son. Please, I whispered, sinking onto the sofa. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. She finally sat in the armchair opposite, her posture rigid. Because from where I'm sitting, you stole something precious from my husband, from our family. I closed my eyes, memories washing over me like tide. The day I discovered I was pregnant. The panic, the confusion, the growing connection with Richard, who'd asked me to dinner for the third time that week. The knowledge that James had mentioned a girlfriend back home. Charlotte, I now realized. Someone he wasn't quite over. When I found out I was pregnant, I began slowly. James and I had already said goodbye. It was a summer romance, nothing more. He never spoke about a future together. And that justified keeping his child a secret? Charlotte's voice was sharp. No, I admitted. But I was starting over. I'd just met Richard and we connected immediately. When I discovered the pregnancy, I was going to tell him the truth, end things before they got serious. But then, my voice caught as I remembered that day. Richard, showing me the house he'd designed for a client, his eyes shining with pride. Richard, talking about the family he hoped to have someday, the children he wanted to raise. Richard, looking at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. I fell in love, I said simply. And I was afraid of raising a child alone if James didn't want us, afraid of losing Richard if he knew the truth. So you lied, Charlotte stated flatly. Yes. The admission hung between us. I told Richard the baby was his, that it was conceived early in our relationship. He never questioned it. He was overjoyed. I glanced at the wedding photo on our mantel. Richard in his tuxedo, me in ivory lace, both of us radiating happiness. 3 months pregnant with Tyler, though no one could tell yet. We moved to Portland for Richard's job before Tyler was born. Started fresh where no one knew us, where the timeline of our relationship wouldn't be scrutinized. I twisted my wedding ring, a nervous habit. Richard was in the delivery room. He cut the cord. He was the first person to hold Tyler after me. Charlotte was silent for a long moment. Then, and you never had doubts? Never considered telling either of them the truth? The question unearthed memories I'd buried deep. Tyler at 3, examining Richard's face with solemn curiosity, asking why Daddy's eyes were blue, while his were the color of Mommy's special honey. Me, heart pounding, explaining that sometimes children look like one parent more than the other. Richard, oblivious to my panic, proudly declaring that Tyler had his mother's eyes. Of course I had doubts, I whispered. There were moments when the guilt was overwhelming. When Tyler would do something or say something that reminded me so much of James, it took my breath away. I remembered the first time Tyler had shown artistic talent, drawing a remarkably detailed sketch of our backyard tree at age 6. Richard had been puzzled, joking that artistic ability must skip generations since neither of us could draw. I'd laughed along, even as my heart raced with the knowledge that James had been an art teacher when I met him. But by then, we were a family. Richard adored Tyler, and Tyler worshipped him. They were father and son in every way that mattered. I looked directly at Charlotte. I convinced myself that the truth would only cause pain. And now? Has it caused pain now? Her question was gentle but pointed. Yes, I admitted, tears welling. More than I ever imagined possible. Charlotte's expression softened slightly. How did they find out? I explained about Tyler's biology class, the ancestry test, the devastating dinner. As I spoke, I could see something shifting in Charlotte's face. Not forgiveness, exactly, but perhaps understanding. James doesn't know I'm here, she confessed suddenly. When he got the notification, when we figured out who you were, who Tyler must be, he was shocked, angry at first, then just sad. He kept saying he had a son he'd never known. Is he... I hesitated, afraid of the answer. Is he going to try to contact Tyler? Charlotte sighed. That's partly why I came, to see the situation for myself before James makes any decisions. She glanced around our living room again, taking in the evidence of our family life. You've built something here, something real, despite its foundation. Yes, I said simply. We have. I should hate you, Charlotte said, surprising me with her candor, for keeping James's firstborn from him, for the years he'll never get back. But, I prompted when she trailed off. But I keep thinking about Amber and the boys, about how this will affect them, how it would have affected them if we'd known from the beginning. She met my eyes directly. And I keep asking myself what I would have done, in your position. The unexpected empathy broke something in me. Tears that I'd been holding back spilled over, years of guilt and fear and love pouring out in silent sobs. Charlotte didn't comfort me, but she didn't leave either. She simply waited, a witness to my pain. When I could speak again, I asked the question that terrified me most. What happens now? I don't know, Charlotte admitted. James wants to meet him, Tyler, his son, but he's also worried about disrupting the boy's life further. Tyler's already devastated, I said. Learning that Richard isn't his biological father it's broken something in him. I don't know if meeting James would heal that, or make it worse. Perhaps that's Tyler's decision to make, Charlotte suggested gently. Not yours anymore. The truth of her words hit me like a physical blow. For 23 years I'd controlled this narrative, decided who knew what, protected my version of our family. But that control had slipped from my grasp the moment Tyler opened that envelope. Charlotte stood, smoothing her immaculate suit. I should go. My flight back to Savannah leaves in 3 hours. I rose as well, suddenly exhausted. What will you tell James? She considered me for a long moment. The truth, that I met a woman who made a mistake, who tried to protect her family the only way she knew how. She picked up her designer handbag. A woman who's now paying a terrible price for that mistake. As I walked her to the door, Charlotte paused, turning back to me with a troubled expression. You should know, James is persistent when he wants something, and he wants to know his son. Her words were both warning and compassion. Whatever happens next, it won't be simple for any of us. After she left, I stood in the doorway watching her sleek rental car disappear down our suburban street. The spring sunshine seemed to mock the darkness that had descended on my life. First Tyler's discovery, then Richard's departure, and now the arrival of a past I'd convinced myself would never catch up to me. Inside, I moved through the house like a sleepwalker, touching photographs, furniture, the small tokens of our family life together. In the kitchen, I found myself staring at the refrigerator, at a magnet from Mount Hood where we'd taught Tyler to ski when he was 7. Richard had been so patient, holding Tyler's hands as he wobbled down the bunny slope, both of them laughing when they tumbled into the snow. That night, in our rented cabin, Richard had whispered to me as Tyler slept, I never knew I could love someone this much. Thank you for making me a father." The memory broke my heart anew, because despite the lies, despite the deception, one thing had always been absolutely true. Richard Mitchell was Tyler's father, perhaps not by blood, but by choice, by action, by love. And now I had to find a way to make both of them believe that again. The faculty meeting room fell silent the moment I walked in. 30 pairs of eyes turned toward me, then quickly away, like people passing a car accident, desperate for a glimpse, but ashamed of their curiosity. My hands tightened around my leather portfolio as I took my usual seat, the whispers starting almost immediately. Heard her husband left. Something about her son. DNA test supposedly showed 3 days had passed since Charlotte's visit. 3 days of unanswered calls to Richard, of Tyler's continued absence, of sleepless nights and tear-soaked pillows. I'd finally dragged myself to work, unable to bear the emptiness of our house any longer. Dean Harmon cleared his throat. "Before we begin today's agenda, I want to thank everyone for their patience while Professor Mitchell dealt with her personal matters." His pointed emphasis made my cheeks burn. "We're glad to have you back, Eleanor." The insincerity in his voice was unmistakable. Robert Harmon had been pursuing me for years, his advances becoming more persistent after his divorce. My consistent rejections had transformed his interest into thinly veiled hostility. "Thank you, Robert," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I appreciate the department's understanding." As he launched into budget discussions, I noticed Diane from medieval literature shooting me sympathetic glances from across the table. Next to her, Paul Newman, no relation to the actor, as he always joked, stared determinedly at his notepad, avoiding eye contact. They knew. Somehow, they all knew. When the meeting ended, 40 excruciating minutes later, I gathered my things quickly, hoping to escape before anyone could corner me. I almost made it to the door when I heard Diane call my name. "Ellie, wait." She hurried toward me, concern etched on her kind face. "Are you okay?" "I've been worried." I forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just some family issues to sort out." "Oh, honey," Diane lowered her voice. "If you need someone to talk to, about what happened with Richard and everything." The painful knot in my stomach tightened. "What exactly have you heard?" Diane glanced around nervously. "Just that there was some confusion about your son's paternity. That Richard found out he's not..." She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. "How?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "How does everyone suddenly know my private business?" "I think it was Stephanie in administration," Diane admitted reluctantly. "Her daughter is friends with Tyler's girlfriend, Jessica. Apparently Tyler confided in Jessica, and..." She made a gesture indicating how quickly the information had spread. "Of course. In our interconnected community, the college where I taught, the high school where Tyler had graduated, the architectural circles where Richard was respected, news traveled faster than light." "I see," I said, fighting to maintain composure. "Well, thank you for your concern, but I really need to get to class now." I hurried down the corridor, ignoring the stares and sudden silences that followed me. In the bathroom, I locked myself in a stall and pressed my forehead against the cool metal door, breathing deeply to prevent the tears threatening to fall. My phone vibrated. A text from Richard, the first direct communication since he'd left, coming by the house at 4 to pick up some things. "We need to talk." Hope and dread warred within me. At least he wanted to talk. That had to mean something. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I lectured on Jane Austen's exploration of social disgrace in Pride and Prejudice, achingly aware of the irony. By 3:30, I was in my car, rushing home to meet Richard. I arrived to find him already there, his Volvo in the driveway. My heart raced as I entered our home, following the sounds of movement to our bedroom. Richard stood by the closet, methodically placing shirts into a suitcase. He looked older somehow, gray stubble shadowing his usually clean-shaven face, dark circles beneath his eyes matching my own. When he saw me, his hand stilled. "Ellie?" he said, my name flat and unfamiliar in his mouth. "Richard," I whispered, fighting the urge to run to him, to wrap my arms around his solid frame and bury my face in the curve of his neck where I'd found comfort for 25 years. "I've been trying to call you." "I know." He returned to his packing, avoiding my eyes. "I needed time to think. And have you? Thought about it?" Hope made my voice tremble. "Yes." He zipped the suitcase with a finality that made me flinch. I've spoken with a lawyer. Despite Charlotte's warning, despite knowing this was coming, the words hit like a physical blow. Richard, please, can't we at least talk about this? About us? Us? Finally, he looked at me directly. His blue eyes, once warm with love, now cold with betrayal. There is no us, Ellie. Not anymore. Not after what you did. 25 years of marriage, I pleaded, stepping closer. 23 years raising Tyler together. That has to count for something. 25 years of lies. His voice rose, the control he'd always prided himself on slipping. Do you have any idea what it feels like? To discover your entire life has been built on a foundation of deception. That the son you loved, the son you thought was your flesh and blood, isn't yours at all. He is yours, I insisted. Maybe not biologically, but in every way that matters. You raised him. You loved him. You are his father. Richard laughed bitterly. Keep telling yourself that if it helps you sleep at night. I never stopped loving you, I whispered. Not for a single day. Love doesn't lie, Ellie. He ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair I'd watched gradually change from dark brown over our decades together. Real love doesn't deceive. I was scared, I admitted. Scared of losing you. So instead, you trapped me in a life built on lies? The raw pain in his voice cut deeper than his anger. Did you ever plan to tell me? Or was I supposed to go to my grave never knowing the truth? Before I could answer, the front door opened and closed. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. Tyler appeared in the doorway, his expression shifting from surprise to discomfort upon seeing us both. Sorry, he muttered. I didn't know you'd both be here. I just came to grab some textbooks. The three of us stood frozen in a tableau of family breakdown. Richard by the suitcase, me in the middle of the room, Tyler in the doorway. The silence stretched, taut with unspoken words and raw emotion. Finally, Richard broke it. It's good to see you, son. The pause before son was slight but unmistakable. Tyler's jaw tightened. You too, Dad. His use of the title seemed both defiant and uncertain. I should go, Richard said, lifting his suitcase. Steve's expecting me back. As he moved toward the door, Tyler stepped aside to let him pass. Their awkward dance, once father and son, now bound by love but separated by biology, made my chest ache. Wait, I blurted. Both of you, please. Can we just talk? As a family? Family, Tyler repeated, the word sounding hollow. That's the problem, isn't it? We're not really a family. Not the way we thought. We are, I insisted. Biology doesn't make a family. Love does. Then why did you lie? Tyler demanded, the question directed at me but his eyes on Richard. If love was enough, why pretend? Richard set down his suitcase, running a weary hand over his face. Your mother made a choice, Tyler. A wrong one, but I understand why she did it. She was afraid. The unexpected defense from Richard left me speechless. Afraid of what? Tyler pressed. Of losing your father, I said softly. I'd just met Richard when I discovered I was pregnant. I'd had a brief relationship that summer with someone else. Someone who was already returning to his old girlfriend. When I fell in love with Richard, I made a choice. A selfish one, maybe, but one I thought would protect all of us. Protect us from what? Tyler's voice cracked. From the truth? From pain, I whispered. But I was wrong. The truth always finds its way out, doesn't it? The three of us stood in silence, the weight of 2 decades of secrets pressing down on us. Outside, rain began to fall, gentle at first, then harder, drumming against the windows like an accusation. Tyler, Richard said finally, whatever happens between your mother and me, you should know that I have never, not for one moment, regretted being your father. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. Even now? Even knowing I'm not really yours? You are mine, Richard said firmly. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. Every day for 23 years I chose to be your father. That doesn't change because of some DNA test. Hope flickered in my chest. If Richard could still claim Tyler as his son, perhaps he could forgive me too. But then he turned to me, his expression hardening once more. That doesn't change what you did, Ellie. You took away my choice. You made me live a lie without my knowledge or consent. I know, I admitted, and I'm sorry. More sorry than I can ever express. Have you told him? Richard asked suddenly. About his biological father? I shook my head. I haven't had the chance. Told me what? Tyler looked between us, confusion replacing his anger. Do you know who he is? Before I could answer, Tyler's phone rang. He glanced at it, then back at us. It's Jessica. She's waiting outside. Go, Richard said. We can finish this conversation later. Are you sure? Tyler hesitated, suddenly seeming very young. I can stay if... Go, I echoed Richard. We shouldn't rush this. After Tyler left, Richard and I stood in painful silence. The space between us, physically just a few feet, emotionally an unbridgeable chasm, ached with all we'd shared and lost. His name is James Davis, I said finally. Tyler's biological father. He was an art teacher in Savannah. We had a brief relationship the summer before I met you. Richard flinched slightly. Does he know? About Tyler? He does now, I admitted. Through the same DNA service Tyler used. His wife found me, came here 3 days ago. His wife, Richard repeated, a bitter smile twisting his lips. So he moved on too. Built his own life. His own family. Yes, they have 3 children. He never knew about Tyler. Richard picked up his suitcase again. And now? What does he want? To meet Tyler, I think. I hugged myself, suddenly cold. His wife said he's persistent when he wants something. So another man will now claim a place in my son's life, Richard said, the pain in his voice unmistakable. Only if Tyler wants that, I said quietly. It should be his choice. Richard nodded, then moved toward the door. I followed him downstairs, desperate to prolong these last moments together, to somehow find words that might begin to heal the wounds I'd inflicted. At the front door, Richard paused. I'll have my lawyer contact you next week. For now, I think it's best if we keep our distance. Richard, I pleaded, reaching for his hand. 25 years. Please don't throw that away. He looked down at my fingers, now entwined with his, hands that had held each other through joy and grief, success and failure, health and sickness. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of the love we'd shared. Then he gently disengaged his hand from mine. You threw it away, Ellie, the day you decided to lie to me, to make me father another man's child without my knowledge. I made a terrible mistake, I admitted, tears falling freely now. But it came from love, not malice. I loved you so much I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. And now you have anyway. He opened the door, rain immediately spattering the threshold. Goodbye, Ellie. I watched from the doorway as he walked to his car, shoulders hunched against the downpour. As he drove away, I sank to my knees, sobs tearing from my throat with such force it felt like my body was being ripped apart. Outside, the storm intensified, matching the tempest raging within me. Everything I'd feared for 23 years had come to pass. My deception had been discovered. My husband had left me. My son barely spoke to me. And now, a man from my past, threatened what remained of our fractured family. I had tried to protect them from pain, only to cause more than I could have imagined. And as lightning flashed across the darkening sky, illuminating our empty driveway for a brilliant moment, I wondered if some mistakes were simply too great to be forgiven. The storm raged through the night, matching my internal turmoil as I paced our empty house. By dawn, both had quieted to a gentle pattering, leaving behind a strange, exhausted calm. I sat in the kitchen with my 3rd cup of coffee, watching sunlight gradually illuminate the puddles on our back patio, when an unexpected clarity washed over me. I had spent 23 years living in fear of discovery, fear of rejection, fear of losing the family I loved. And now, with those fears realized, I was still standing. Broken, yes. Devastated, certainly, but not destroyed. My phone chimed with a text from Megan. Coffee today? No excuses this time, I'm worried about you. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. For days, I'd been isolating myself, ashamed to face friends who might have heard rumors, unwilling to admit how thoroughly my life had unraveled. But this new clarity pushed me toward a different response. Yes, Palmer's Cafe at 10? Her reply came instantly. See you there. Hearts. After showering for the first time in days, I stood before the bathroom mirror, really looking at myself. Reddened eyes, hollowed cheeks, streaks of gray in my chestnut hair I'd been meaning to color. A woman in the aftermath of catastrophe. But also, I realized with surprise, a woman with strength in her gaze. The same strength that had carried me through an early divorce, through building a career, through raising a child and nurturing a marriage. I would need that strength now more than ever. At Palmer's, Megan waited at our usual corner table, 2 lattes already ordered. When she saw me, she stood immediately, enfolding me in a hug that nearly broke my fragile composure. "Oh, Ellie," she whispered. "I've been so worried." We sat, and for a moment, I simply soaked in the comfort of her familiar presence. Megan had been my first friend in Portland, our sons in the same kindergarten class, our shared love of literature bridging the initial awkwardness of playground small talk. "I assume you've heard," I said finally, wrapping my cold hands around the warm mug. Megan nodded, her expression compassionate rather than judgmental. "Bits and pieces, a lot of ridiculous speculation. I wanted to hear the truth from you, so I told her everything. The summer in Savannah, meeting Richard while unknowingly pregnant, the decision that had seemed so necessary, so protective at the time, the devastating reveal through Tyler's DNA test, Richard's departure, Charlotte's visit, the humiliation at work." Megan listened without interruption, occasionally reaching across the table to squeeze my hand when my voice faltered. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know what to say except, 'I'm sorry this is happening,'" she finally offered, "and that I'm here for you, whatever you need." "You don't hate me?" I asked, voicing the fear that had kept me isolated. "You don't think I'm a terrible person for what I did?" "Ellie," Megan sighed, "we've been friends for 20 years. I know your heart. You made a mistake. A big one, yes, but you made it out of love and fear, not malice." "That's what I tried to tell Richard," I said, "but he can't see past the betrayal." "Give him time," Megan advised. "His whole world has been upended too." We talked for over an hour, the conversation shifting from my immediate crisis to practical considerations I'd been too overwhelmed to contemplate: financial preparations in case of divorce, counseling for Tyler, legal implications I might face. "And what about this James person?" Megan asked. "Tyler's biological father? What role will he play in all this?" "I don't know," I admitted. "His wife said he wants to meet Tyler, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm dreading it, honestly. It feels like losing Tyler to a stranger. Or," Megan suggested gently, "it could be gaining another support person in Tyler's life, someone else to love him." I hadn't considered that perspective. "Maybe," I conceded, "if that's what Tyler wants." When we parted, Megan hugged me tightly again. "Remember who you are, Ellie. A survivor, a fighter, a damn good mother and friend. This doesn't define you." Her words echoed in my mind as I drove to campus for my afternoon class. In the faculty parking lot, I caught sight of Dean Harmon watching me from his office window, his expression inscrutable. A week ago, his scrutiny would have sent me scurrying inside, head down, avoiding notice. Today, I met his gaze steadily before walking purposefully toward my classroom. My Renaissance literature students fell silent as I entered, their usual pre-class chatter dissipating like morning fog. I could read awareness in their faces. They knew something of my personal drama. In a university town like Portland, gossip traveled along predictable channels. "Good afternoon," I said, my voice stronger than it had been in days. "Today we're discussing Shakespeare's Measure for Measure, a play about justice, mercy, and the complexities of moral judgment." For the next 90 minutes, I lost myself in teaching, in the familiar rhythm of literary analysis and student discussion. When class ended, a few students lingered, offering small kindnesses, a shy smile, a question about the upcoming assignment that could have been emailed, a comment about how much they enjoyed the lecture. Their gentle support, unspoken but palpable, carried me through the rest of the day. By the time I returned home, something had shifted within me. The paralysis of shame and fear was giving way to a different energy, more focused, more determined. Instead of collapsing on the sofa as I had for days, I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and began to write. First, a list of what I needed to protect myself: financial records, account information, an appointment with a lawyer of my own. Then, what Tyler might need: perhaps counseling, certainly space, but also truth, the full story I'd never shared. As I wrote, my phone rang. Richard's name on the screen sent my heart racing. "Hello," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ellie." His tone was formal, distant. "I've been thinking about how to handle this with Tyler," Not "I've been thinking about us" or "I've been thinking about our marriage." Just Tyler. I swallowed my disappointment. "What do you mean?" "He needs to know about his biological father. The full story." Richard sighed. "And I think we should tell him together." "Together?" Hope fluttered weakly. "As his parents," Richard clarified. "Whatever's happened between us, he deserves that much." The distinction was clear. We were Tyler's parents, but no longer a couple. Still, it was something. A recognition of our shared role that transcended the betrayal. "When?" I asked. "He's coming to Steve's for dinner tomorrow night. Could you come at 8? After we've eaten, but before it gets too late." The casual exclusion from the family meal stung, but I pushed the hurt aside. "I'll be there." After we hung up, I returned to my lists with renewed purpose. At the bottom of the page, I wrote a heading that surprised me with its boldness: "What I want." Below it, I began to articulate desires I'd been afraid to acknowledge even to myself. I want my family back, but not at the cost of more lies. I want Tyler to know I love him unconditionally, that my deception was never about him. I want Richard to remember the life we built together, the love that was real despite its imperfect foundation. I want to stop living in fear. The last one caught me by surprise. For so long, fear had been my constant companion. Fear of discovery, fear of judgment, fear of losing everything I loved. It had dictated my choices, limited my honesty, shrunk my world to a careful performance of the perfect wife and mother. And yet, now that my worst fears had materialized, I was still breathing, still functioning, still capable of fighting for what mattered to me. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in days. When I awoke, weak spring sunshine filtered through the curtains, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air like possibilities. I reached for my phone to check the time and found a text from Tyler. "Dad says you're coming to Uncle Steve's tonight. I think that's good. I have questions. No, love you. No, miss you. But communication. A bridge, however fragile, across the chasm that had opened between us." I spent the day preparing, not just emotionally, but practically. I dug through storage boxes until I found what I was looking for: a small wooden chest containing mementos I'd kept hidden for years. Inside lay tangible pieces of that Savannah summer: a pressed magnolia blossom, ticket stubs from a riverboat cruise, a sketch James had drawn of me reading on Tybee Island's beach, and photographs, just a few, yellowed with age, showing a younger version of myself with a tall, lanky man whose hazel eyes unmistakably matched Tyler's. Evidence of the brief relationship that had created my son. I'd kept these things not out of lingering attachment to James, but as a connection to a pivotal moment in my life, the summer that had, unbeknownst to me at the time, set the course for everything that followed. Now, they might help Tyler understand where he came from, might give him pieces of himself he'd never known were missing. As evening approached, I dressed carefully, not to impress Richard, though that instinct lingered, but to armor myself for the confrontation ahead. A navy blouse that brought out the blue in my eyes, tailored slacks, the silver earrings Tyler had given me for Mother's Day 2 years ago. Looking in the mirror, I saw not just the wreckage of recent days, but also the determination that had begun to replace despair. Before leaving, I paused in Tyler's doorway, breathing in the lingering scent of his presence. On his desk sat the framed family photo I'd noticed days earlier, the 3 of us in our Christmas pajamas, smiling. Someone, Tyler, had placed it face down. With gentle fingers, I stood it upright again. That moment had been real. Our happiness had been real. Nothing, not deception, not biology, not even the pain of recent revelations, could erase the love in that photograph. I drove to Steve's house with the wooden box on the passenger seat, its contents representing both my greatest mistake and its miraculous result, my beautiful son. Whatever happened tonight, I would face it with honesty. No more secrets, no more fear. As I pulled into Steve's driveway, I saw Richard's Volvo and Tyler's old Honda already parked outside. My hands trembled slightly as I gathered the box and my purse. At the front door, I hesitated, then pressed the doorbell with renewed resolve. The door opened to reveal Steve, his expression guarded but not openly hostile. "Ellie," he acknowledged, stepping aside to let me enter. "They're in the living room." I nodded my thanks, too nervous for small talk. As I walked down the hallway toward the murmur of voices, a strange calm settled over me. For the first time in 23 years, I was about to be fully honest with the people I loved most in the world. Whatever came after, forgiveness or rejection, reconciliation or permanent estrangement, would at least be built on truth. In Steve's comfortable living room, Richard and Tyler sat in matching armchairs, their postures similarly tense. Both looked up as I entered, their expressions an identical mix of wariness and expectation. The resemblance between them, not biological but acquired through years of shared life, struck me with painful clarity. "Hello," I said simply, clutching the wooden box like a shield. "Thank you for agreeing to talk." Richard nodded stiffly. Tyler's gaze dropped to the box in my hands, curiosity momentarily overriding his anger. "What's that?" he asked, the first words he'd spoken directly to me in days. I took a deep breath, setting the box on the coffee table between us. "The truth," I replied. "All of it. It's time you both heard everything." Steve's living room felt both too small and too vast as I sat across from my husband and son. The wooden box between us seemed to pulse with decades-old secrets, waiting to be released. "Before I open this," I began, my voice steadier than I expected, "I want you both to know something. Everything I did, the lies, the deception, came from a place of love. Misguided love, perhaps, but love nonetheless." Richard's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. Tyler leaned forward slightly, his anger temporarily overshadowed by curiosity. 24 years ago, I continued, I was teaching a summer writing workshop in Savannah, Georgia. I was 39, recently divorced from my college boyfriend, starting over. One of my students was an art teacher named James Davis. I opened the box and removed the first photograph, James and me on Tybee Island, the lighthouse visible in the background. My hair was longer then, my face unlined, my smile carefree. James stood beside me, tall and lanky, one arm draped casually around my shoulders. "We had a brief relationship," I explained, passing the photo to Tyler. 3 months, no promises of a future. He mentioned an on-again, off-again girlfriend back home, Charlotte, who I now know became his wife. When the workshop ended in August, we said goodbye. I returned to Seattle, and he stayed in Georgia. Tyler studied the photograph, his fingers tracing James's face, lingering on the eyes that matched his own. Richard looked away, his posture rigid with discomfort. "A month later, I met your father," I said, my gaze moving to Richard. "At a gallery opening in Seattle. I wasn't looking for a relationship, but there was something about him, his kindness, his intelligence, the way he talked about architecture with such passion. A flicker of something, memory, perhaps, or buried affection, crossed Richard's face before disappearing behind his mask of hurt. We started dating," I continued, "and it was wonderful, healing. I felt like I could breathe again after years in a suffocating marriage. Then, in October, I discovered I was pregnant. I removed another item from the box, a yellowed prescription for prenatal vitamins dated October 28, 1999. By my calculations, I was already 6 weeks along. The baby, you, Tyler, had been conceived during my last week in Savannah, with James." Tyler's eyes widened. "You knew? From the beginning, you knew that Dad wasn't?" "Yes," I admitted, the single word carrying the weight of decades of deception. "I knew." Richard finally spoke, his voice rough. "Why didn't you tell me? Right then, at the beginning?" I closed my eyes briefly, remembering that pivotal moment 24 years ago, the positive pregnancy test, the panic, the calculations on a calendar that confirmed what I already suspected, that the child belonged to a summer romance, not to the man I was falling in love with. "I was going to," I said quietly. "I'd decided to tell you everything, then end our relationship before it got more serious. But then what?" Richard pressed. "Then you took me to see the Henderson house, that beautiful craftsman you'd designed for the family with 4 children. You showed me the window seats you'd built in each child's room, the secret passageway between the siblings' bedrooms, the treehouse in the backyard. You told me that someday you hoped to build a home like that for your own family." Tears threatened, but I blinked them away, determined to get through this without breaking down. The way you talked about children, about family, it was so full of love and longing. And I thought about telling you I was pregnant with another man's child, watching your face fall, losing what we were building. I couldn't do it. I looked directly at Richard. So I lied. I told you the baby was yours, that it must have happened early in our relationship. And I believed you, Richard said bitterly. Never questioned it, not once in 23 years. Because you trusted me, I acknowledged. And I betrayed that trust. Tyler set the photograph down carefully. Did you ever try to contact him? James? My biological father? I shook my head. No. Once I made the decision to build a life with Richard, I closed that door completely. James didn't know about the pregnancy. I moved to Portland with Richard before you were born. Started fresh where no one knew our history. And you never thought I had a right to know? Tyler's voice cracked slightly. That Dad had a right to know? I told myself I was protecting you both, I admitted. But I was protecting myself too. Protecting the family we'd built. The life we shared. I looked at Richard, willing him to remember. And it was a good life, wasn't it? Despite its foundation? Before Richard could respond, I reached into the box again and removed a manila envelope similar to the one that had shattered our lives days earlier. There's something else you both need to know. From the envelope, I withdrew a thick document, medical records I'd kept hidden for decades, their pages yellowed with age. When I was 25, before I met either James or Richard, I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure. I pushed the records toward them. Multiple doctors confirmed I would never conceive naturally. My pregnancy with you, Tyler, was considered nothing short of miraculous. Richard frowned, taking the documents with hesitant hands. What are you saying? I'm saying that when I discovered I was pregnant with James's child, I already knew I would never have another chance at motherhood. My voice trembled slightly. And when I met you, Richard, when I fell in love with you, the thought of giving up both the man I loved and my only chance to be a mother was unbearable. Understanding dawned in Richard's eyes as he scanned the medical reports. You never suggested we try for more children. Because I knew it was impossible, I confirmed. That's why Tyler remained an only child, despite how much we both would have loved a bigger family. Tyler looked between us, confusion evident. Wait, so you're saying if you had told Dad the truth back then, he might have left, I finished softly. Or if he'd stayed, he might have wanted children of his own eventually, children I couldn't give him. The lie seemed kinder somehow, a way for all of us to have what we wanted. That wasn't your decision to make, Richard said, but some of the hardness had left his voice. I should have been given the choice. I know that now, I acknowledged. I've had 23 years to regret not telling you the truth from the beginning, but I've never, not for a single moment, regretted being Tyler's mother or your wife. A heavy silence fell over the room. Steve appeared briefly in the doorway, raising his eyebrows in silent question. Richard shook his head slightly, and his brother retreated, leaving us to our painful revelations. There's more, I said, reaching into the box one final time. I withdrew a thick legal document, its official seal prominently displayed on the cover page. This is the real reason Charlotte came to see me. Richard frowned. Charlotte? James's wife? I nodded. She found me last week. Apparently, when James received notification of a DNA match to Tyler, he did some research. He discovered not just me, but this. I passed the document to Richard, whose eyes widened as he read the title. Davis Family Trust. James's grandfather was Alexander Davis, I explained, the shipping magnate. When he died in 2000, he left a fortune in trust for James and his descendants. According to Charlotte, it's worth approximately $40 million. Tyler's breath caught audibly. $40 million? The trust stipulates that all biological descendants of James Davis are entitled to equal shares, I continued. Currently, that includes James's 3 children with Charlotte, and now potentially you. Richard's expression darkened. So that's what this is about? Money? Not for me, I said firmly. I didn't even know about the trust until Charlotte told me. But for them, yes, I think it's a factor. Adding another heir would reduce each child's portion significantly. Did she ask you to keep quiet about it? Richard's lawyer's mind was clearly working through the implications. Not directly, but she made it clear they were assessing the situation before James made contact. I met Tyler's stunned gaze, which means you need to know everything before you meet him. If you choose to. Tyler ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so like Richard's it made my heart ache. This is a lot. I know, I said gently, and I'm sorry to drop all of this on you at once. But no more secrets. No more lies. You deserve the whole truth. Richard had been studying the trust document with increasing concentration. There's something else here, he said slowly. The trust language. It specifies legal heirs in one section and biological descendants in another. That's an important distinction. He looked up at me. Was Tyler ever legally adopted? By me? I nodded, surprised by the question. Of course. When we married, 3 months before he was born, the birth certificate lists you as his father. But there was no formal adoption process, Richard clarified, because I was named as the father from birth. Right, I confirmed. We never told anyone Tyler wasn't biologically yours, so there was no need for adoption. Richard's expression changed, a calculating look I recognized from his most challenging architectural projects. Then, legally speaking, I am Tyler's father, and if the trust specifies legal heirs in some portions, are you saying I might still have a claim? Tyler asked, catching on quickly. Possibly, Richard mused. It would depend on the exact language and how a court would interpret it. He set the document down carefully. This is why Charlotte wanted to assess the situation. It's not just about adding another heir. It's about determining if you qualify as an heir at all under the terms of the trust. I felt a strange sense of vindication. So it wasn't just about family connection. It was about protecting their inheritance. Likely both, Richard said, his analytical mind temporarily overriding his personal hurt. Family trusts this size are complicated. The emotional and financial considerations are intertwined. Tyler stood suddenly, pacing the length of the living room. So let me get this straight. My biological father is a wealthy heir who never knew about me. His wife tracked you down to figure out if I have a claim on their family fortune. And all of this is happening because I took a stupid DNA test for a biology class? Put that way, the situation sounded almost absurd. A nervous laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Life is strange sometimes. To my surprise, Richard's lips twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. Indeed. For a moment, a fragment of our old connection flickered between us. The ability to find dark humor in difficult situations, to stand together against external challenges. But it disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, the weight of betrayal still too heavy between us. Tyler stopped pacing, turning to face us both. What do you think I should do? The question, directed at both of us, acknowledged our roles as his parents despite everything, a small but significant olive branch. That depends, Richard said carefully, on what you want. If it's about the money, it's not, Tyler interrupted. I don't care about that. I mean, it's weird to think about, but he looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in days. I want to know where I came from, who he is, if I'm like him in ways I never understood before. His words hurt, but I nodded. That's natural, Tyler, and you have every right to meet him if that's what you want. But I don't want to, he struggled to articulate his thoughts, to replace Dad, or to hurt either of you more than I already have. You haven't hurt anyone, Richard said firmly. The situation isn't your doing, Tyler. None of it. The absolution in his voice brought tears to my eyes. Richard might not be ready to forgive me, but he wouldn't let our son carry any blame for the choices I'd made. Whatever you decide, I said, we'll support you, both of us. I glanced at Richard, who nodded his agreement. And whatever happens with this trust, or with James and his family, it doesn't change who raised you, who loved you every day of your life. Tyler sank back into his chair, the weight of decisions too complex for his 23 years evident in his posture. I think I do want to meet him, just to see. Then we'll arrange it, Richard said, surprising me with the we. But first, I think we should consult with a trust attorney to understand your position before any meeting takes place. The practical suggestion was so characteristic of Richard, addressing problems methodically, protecting those he loved through careful planning. Despite everything, he was still trying to protect Tyler. I have all of James's contact information, I offered. Charlotte gave it to me in case Tyler wanted to reach out. Richard nodded, his expression unreadable. We should proceed carefully, with full knowledge of the legal and emotional implications. We, I repeated softly. Not you or I, but we, a word that held both memory and possibility. As the evening wound down, the three of us reached a tentative accord. Not reconciliation, not forgiveness, but a united front for Tyler's benefit as he navigated the complications of his newly discovered heritage. When it was time to leave, I carefully packed the contents of the wooden box, leaving the trust document with Richard for further review. At the door, Tyler hesitated, then surprised me with a brief, awkward hug. "I'm still angry," he whispered. "But I don't hate you, Mom. I could never hate you." The simple statement unleashed the tears I'd been holding back all evening. "Thank you," I managed to say, touching his cheek gently before releasing him. Richard walked me to my car, maintaining a careful distance. In the driveway, illuminated by the porch light, he paused. "Why did you keep all those things?" he asked, gesturing to the wooden box. "The photos, the medical records, everything. If you never intended for the truth to come out." I considered the question seriously. I think part of me always knew it might. That someday I might need to explain, to prove, to remember. I looked at him directly. "The truth has a way of emerging eventually, doesn't it?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, it does." After a moment, he added, "I'll call you tomorrow about finding a trust attorney. For Tyler's sake. Not for us. For Tyler. But it was a connection. A reason to speak. To work together. A starting point." As I drove home alone, the wooden box secure on the seat beside me, I felt strangely lighter despite the unresolved nature of our situation. The truth, so long my enemy, my greatest fear, had finally been fully revealed. And while it hadn't immediately healed our family's wounds, it had cleared away the lies that had been poisoning us from within. For the first time in 23 years, I was no longer living in fear of discovery. Whatever happened next, whether forgiveness or final separation, whether Tyler found connection with his biological father or not, whether the Davis family welcomed or rejected him, we would face it without secrets between us. The power of truth, I realized, lay not in its ability to fix everything, but in its capacity to create a foundation upon which authentic healing might, eventually, begin to build. The offices of Bennett, Zhao & Associates occupied the 15th floor of a gleaming downtown Portland high-rise. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered sweeping views of the Willamette River, a visual reminder of the power and privilege housed within these walls. I sat rigidly in a leather chair that probably cost more than a month of my salary, hyper-aware of Richard's presence beside me and Tyler's nervous fidgeting across the table. Across from us, Sophia Zhao, one of Portland's most formidable trust attorneys, reviewed the Davis family trust documents with laser-focused attention, occasionally making notations in elegant script. Her silence stretched until it became almost unbearable. "Well," she said finally, looking up with sharp, intelligent eyes, "this is certainly an interesting case." Richard leaned forward slightly. "What's your assessment?" "The trust language is deliberately ambiguous in places," Sophia explained, tapping a manicured nail against a specific paragraph. "It references biological descendants in sections pertaining to the primary distribution, but legal heirs in clauses addressing contingent beneficiaries and certain trust powers." "And what does that mean for Tyler?" I asked, struggling to follow the legal nuances. Sophia looked directly at my son. "It means, Mr. Mitchell, that you occupy a unique position. Biologically, you are unquestionably James Davis's descendant. Legally, however, you have been Richard Mitchell's son since birth." Tyler frowned. "So, do I have a claim or not? That's the million-dollar question." Sophia's lips curved in a slight smile at her own pun. Or rather, the multi-million-dollar question. And the answer is, possibly. Richard's jaw tightened with familiar frustration. "Could you be more specific?" "The trust gives the trustee, in this case, Meridian Trust Company, significant discretionary power to determine qualifying beneficiaries when questions arise." Sophia closed the document deliberately, "which means your status, Tyler, will likely come down to how the trustee interprets these clauses, potentially influenced by the wishes of James Davis himself, as the current primary beneficiary." I exchanged glances with Richard, seeing my own concerns reflected in his eyes. "So essentially, it depends on whether James wants to acknowledge Tyler as a beneficiary." "To some extent, yes," Sophia confirmed. "Though if he refuses, we could petition the court to intervene. But that would mean a lengthy, expensive legal battle with no guaranteed outcome." Tyler slumped in his chair. "I already told you, I don't care about the money. I just want to meet him." "The money matters," Richard said quietly. "Not because you need it or should pursue it for its own sake, but because it will influence how the Davis family responds to you. We need to be prepared for that reality." I nodded, impressed once again by Richard's ability to see the practical dimensions of emotional situations. In the 3 days since our meeting at Steve's house, we'd established a fragile working relationship. Not reconciliation, but a pragmatic alliance focused on protecting Tyler. "What do you recommend?" I asked Sophia. She removed her reading glasses, fixing us with a direct gaze. "First, I suggest we draft a formal letter to James Davis, acknowledging Tyler's desire to meet, but also clearly establishing his potential interest in the trust. This puts everything on the table immediately, rather than allowing them to control the narrative." "Won't that seem aggressive?" I worried. "Like we're only interested in the money?" "It's not aggressive. It's transparent," Sophia corrected. "The Davis family is already aware of the financial implications. Remember, Charlotte came to you first. We're simply acknowledging the elephant in the room." Richard nodded his agreement. "What else?" "Second, I recommend we request a formal meeting, not just between Tyler and James, but including legal representation for both sides. This establishes that while Tyler's interest is primarily personal, we're not naive about the financial aspects." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "That sounds so cold, like a business negotiation instead of meeting my biological father." Sophia's expression softened slightly. "I understand your discomfort, Tyler, but trusts of this magnitude aren't just about family. They're about significant financial interests. The Davis family will absolutely have legal representation involved. You should too." "She's right, Tyler," Richard said gently. "It doesn't mean the meeting itself has to be formal or cold, but having proper representation protects you." Tyler looked between his parents, then sighed. "Fine. Whatever you think is best." Sophia made a note in her leather portfolio. "Third, I'd like to engage a forensic accountant to review the trust's financial statements, which we'll request as part of Tyler's potential beneficiary status. This will give us a clearer picture of the actual value and structure of the assets." The meeting continued for another hour, with Sophia outlining a comprehensive strategy that felt more like preparation for battle than for a family reunion. By the time we left her office, I felt both reassured by her competence and disturbed by the adversarial approach we seemed to be taking. In the elevator down to the parking garage, Tyler voiced my concerns. "Is all this really necessary? The lawyers, the formal letters? It feels like we're declaring war instead of trying to connect with James." Richard placed a steadying hand on Tyler's shoulder. "It's not war, son. It's protection. Charlotte didn't visit your mother out of simple curiosity or family feeling. They're calculating their response, and we need to be equally prepared." I nodded reluctantly. "Your father's right, Tyler. I wish it could be simpler, but there's too much at stake, emotionally and financially." Tyler looked between us, a small smile touching his lips despite the tension. "At least you two are agreeing on something again." The observation hung in the air as the elevator doors opened to the parking garage. None of us acknowledged it directly, but I felt a flicker of something like hope. Perhaps our broken family wasn't beyond all repair. "I'll drive Tyler home," Richard said, as we reached our separate cars. "We'll call you once Sophia drafts the letter for review." I nodded, watching as they walked away together. Still father and son despite everything. The sight was both painful and comforting. At home, I buried myself in end-of-term grading, trying to maintain some semblance of normality amid the chaos of my personal life. My colleagues had largely stopped whispering behind my back, either because the novelty of my scandal had worn off, or because my newly straightened spine and direct gaze discouraged gossip to my face. 3 days later, Sophia's office sent the draft letter for our review. Richard called to discuss it, his tone businesslike but not cold, a small improvement from the icy formality of the previous week. "It looks comprehensive," he said after we'd both read it. "Firm, but not hostile. Sophia's good." "She is," I agreed. Do you think they'll respond positively?" Richard was silent for a moment. "I think they'll respond cautiously. There's a lot of money involved, Ellie, and family dynamics we can't begin to understand." The use of my nickname, Ellie instead of Eleanor, didn't escape my notice, a tiny crack in his armor of formality. "Tyler's excited about meeting him," I said carefully. "Nervous, but excited. He has so many questions." "I know," Richard replied, a hint of sadness in his voice. "We talked about it last night." The casual reference to their conversation stung, a reminder that father and son still shared confidences from which I was now excluded. But I pushed the hurt aside, focusing on what mattered. "How are you feeling about it all?" I ventured. About Tyler meeting James? Another silence. Honestly, part of me hates it. Hates the idea of sharing Tyler with this stranger. This man who contributed DNA but nothing else. His voice tightened. But another part understands Tyler's need to know where he came from. Who he came from. I can't deny him that, no matter how much it hurts. The raw honesty moved me. You're a good father, Richard. You always have been. I tried to be, he said quietly. I still am trying. After approving the letter, we ended the call with the same polite formality that now characterized our interactions. But something had shifted slightly. A hairline crack in the wall between us, allowing a whisper of our former connection to seep through. The response from James Davis arrived with surprising swiftness, just 2 days after Sophia sent our letter. I was in my campus office when Richard called. They've agreed to a meeting, he said without preamble. Next weekend, here in Portland. My heart rate accelerated. So soon? Did they agree to our terms? Most of them. They're bringing their attorney but agreed the first meeting should be primarily personal, with legal discussions to follow if necessary. Richard's voice was carefully neutral. James is coming alone, without Charlotte or their children. How did Tyler take the news? I asked, reorganizing my weekend mentally to accommodate this development. He's processing it, Richard said. Excited, nervous, uncertain, all the things you'd expect. And what about the trust issue? Did they acknowledge Tyler's potential claim? Their attorney included a carefully worded paragraph stating that all legal matters would be addressed in due course following initial familial connections. Sophia says it's non-committal, but not dismissive. I sighed, leaning back in my office chair. So we wait and see. We prepare, Richard corrected. Sophia suggested we meet tomorrow to discuss how to approach the meeting, what questions to ask, what information to volunteer, how to protect Tyler's interest while allowing him the personal connection he wants. I'll be there, I promised. Whatever time works for you both. That night, unable to sleep, I found myself scrolling through family photographs on my laptop, digital memories of happier times. Tyler's high school graduation, with Richard beaming proudly beside him. Our trip to Yellowstone 3 summers ago, all of us laughing as Old Faithful erupted behind us. Christmas mornings, birthday celebrations, ordinary moments of family joy captured and preserved. Would we ever create new memories like these? Or would our future interactions always be defined by pragmatic alliances and careful distance? Our family unit permanently fractured by my long-ago deception. I paused on a particular photo. Richard teaching 16-year-old Tyler to drive, both of them focused intensely on something outside the frame, their expressions so similar despite the lack of biological connection. The bond between them transcended DNA, built through thousands of everyday moments of love, guidance, and shared experience. Whatever happened with James Davis and the trust, that bond was real. I had to believe it was strong enough to survive this challenge. The next morning, I met Richard and Tyler at a quiet cafe near Sophia's office. Tyler looked tired but determined, fidgeting with his coffee cup as we discussed the upcoming meeting. Remember, Sophia advised, this first meeting is primarily personal, but everything you say could potentially have legal implications. Be honest, but cautious. Should I call him James? Or something else? Tyler asked, vulnerability evident in his question. Whatever feels comfortable, I suggested gently. He'll understand this is all new for you. Richard nodded. Just be yourself, Tyler. You're not obligated to feel any particular way about him. This is about information gathering, learning about him, about that part of your heritage. And if he asks about the trust, Tyler pressed. About money, defer to me, Sophia said firmly. Simply say we're still reviewing the documentation and will address those matters at an appropriate time. The meeting continued with Sophia offering specific guidance on topics to explore and others to avoid. Throughout it all, I noticed Richard watching Tyler with a mixture of pride and concern, still every inch the protective father despite the biological revelation that had shaken our family. When Sophia left for another appointment, the 3 of us remained at the table, an island of uncertain family in the bustling cafe. I've been thinking, Tyler said suddenly, about names and identity, I guess. Richard tensed slightly beside me. What about them? I'm Tyler Mitchell, he said firmly. That's who I've always been, who I'll continue to be, regardless of DNA tests or trust funds or anything else. He looked directly at Richard. You're my dad. Nothing changes that. The The simple declaration brought tears to my eyes. Richard swallowed hard, emotion briefly cracking his composed facade. "Thank you, son," he said quietly, reaching across to squeeze Tyler's hand briefly. "That means more than you know." As we prepared to leave, Tyler mentioned he'd promised to meet Jessica for lunch. With a quick hug for me, still somewhat awkward, but no longer completely stiff, and a nod to Richard, he headed out, leaving us momentarily alone. In the absence of our son as buffer, tension crept back between us. Richard gathered his notes methodically, avoiding my gaze. "He's handling this remarkably well," I ventured. "Better than either of us, probably." Richard nodded. "He's always been resilient. Gets that from..." He paused, then continued with deliberate choice. "From both of us." The acknowledgement that Tyler had inherited qualities from me as well felt like an olive branch, however small. "Richard," I began hesitantly, "I know this isn't the time or place, but I want you to know. I'm sorry. Not just for the original deception, but for maintaining it for so long, for not giving you the chance to choose." He stilled, his hands flat on the table. "I've been thinking about that," he said slowly. "About choice. About what I would have chosen if I'd known the truth from the beginning." My heart pounded as I waited for him to continue. "I can't say for certain," he admitted. "The younger me might have walked away, might have wanted children that were biologically mine, or might have stayed but always seen Tyler as somehow separate." He looked up, meeting my eyes directly. "But I do know this. I wouldn't trade being Tyler's father for anything in this world. Not for biological children, not for an honest beginning, not for anything." Tears blurred my vision. "He's been so lucky to have you. We've been lucky to have each other," Richard corrected, then stood gathering his coat. "I should go. I have a client meeting at 2. As he turned to leave, I called after him. "Will you be at the house when James comes to meet Tyler?" He paused, considering. "Do you want me there?" "I think Tyler would," I said carefully. "And I would too, if you're willing." Richard nodded once. "Then I'll be there. For Tyler. Not for me, not for us." But it was a start, a willingness to stand together, however temporarily, for our son's benefit. As I watched him leave, I realized that our strategy for dealing with James Davis and his potential claim on Tyler wasn't just about legal protections or financial interests. It was about presenting a united front as parents, showing that regardless of biology or marital status, we remained committed to Tyler's well-being, and perhaps, in that unity, we might find a path forward, not to the marriage we had before, which was built partly on deception, but to something new, something honest, something real. With newfound determination, I pulled out my phone and called Sophia's office. There were preparations to be made, questions to consider, a strategy to refine. In 5 days, James Davis would arrive in Portland to meet the son he never knew he had. And whatever his intentions, whether genuinely familial or primarily financial, he would find not a vulnerable young man easily manipulated, but a strong, supported individual with 2 parents firmly at his side. Saturday arrived with unseasonable sunshine, as if Portland itself had decided to put on its best face for the momentous meeting. I moved through our house in a haze of nervous energy, straightening cushions, arranging and rearranging a tray of refreshments, checking the clock every few minutes, though James wasn't expected for hours. Tyler appeared in the kitchen doorway around noon, his casual outfit belied by the careful styling of his hair and the tension evident in his posture. "How do I look?" he asked. A question so adolescent it momentarily transported me back to his high school years. "Handsome," I replied honestly, "and every inch your own person." He attempted a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Is Richard coming soon?" The slip didn't escape my notice. For the first time since the revelation, Tyler had hesitated over what to call Richard. A small thing, perhaps, but it pierced my heart. "He'll be here at 1, I assured him. He wanted to give us some time together first, and Sophia will arrive shortly before James. Tyler nodded, then surprised me by asking, "Are you okay, Mom, with all of this?" The question, his concern for me amid his own emotional turmoil, brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "I'm fine," I insisted, wiping them away quickly. "Just nervous for you, not just for me," Tyler said perceptively. "This changes things for you too. Your past, your secrets, they're all coming into the open today." I hadn't realized he'd considered how this affected me beyond my role as his mother. "Yes," I admitted, It's frightening, but also liberating in a way. No more hiding, no more fear of discovery. Tyler helped himself to coffee from the pot I'd brewed earlier, his movements deliberate, as if concentrating on the mundane task helped settle his nerves. Did you love him, James? The question caught me off guard. In all our discussions about biology and trusts and legal implications, we'd skirted the emotional core of my long-ago relationship. Not the way I loved your father, I said carefully. It was a summer romance, intense but brief. By the time I discovered I was pregnant, I'd already met Richard and was falling in love with him. But if you hadn't met Dad, would you have contacted James? Told him about me? I considered the hypothetical seriously. I think I would have. Not for myself, but for you. Every child deserves to know where they came from. Tyler nodded slowly. That's what I keep thinking about. That he never got the chance to know me, to decide if he wanted to be my father. James may be your biological father, I said gently, but Richard is your dad, the man who raised you, who taught you to ride a bike and helped with your homework and cheered at your games. DNA can't change that connection. I know, Tyler assured me. I keep wondering what might have been different, if I'd grown up knowing both of them. The doorbell interrupted our conversation, startling us both, though it was too early for James. Richard stood on the porch, earlier than expected, a bakery box in his hands. I thought we might need something to steady our nerves, he explained, revealing an assortment of pastries, including Tyler's favorite chocolate croissants. The thoughtful gesture, so characteristic of Richard's quiet way of showing care, created a moment of familiar warmth in our strained family dynamic. As we gathered around the kitchen island, sharing coffee and pastries, I could almost pretend we were still the cohesive unit we'd been just weeks ago. Sophia arrived precisely on schedule, her professional demeanor slightly softened for the personal nature of our meeting. James texted me from his hotel, she informed us. He's on his way. Should be here in about 15 minutes. The announcement sent a fresh wave of anxiety through me. 15 minutes until I faced the man I hadn't seen in 24 years. The man whose brief presence in my life had altered its course completely. I'll make fresh coffee, I said, needing something to do with my trembling hands. As I busied myself with the familiar ritual, I heard Richard speaking quietly to Tyler in the living room, offering last-minute reassurance and support. Despite everything, he remained the steady center our family had always revolved around. The doorbell's chime sent my heart racing. From my position in the kitchen, I watched as Sophia answered, speaking briefly with someone on the porch before stepping aside. And then he was there, James Davis, standing in our entryway, 24 years older but instantly recognizable, taller than I remembered, his once dark hair now salt and pepper, but with the same lean build, the same thoughtful posture, and the same hazel eyes, Tyler's eyes, now widened slightly as they caught sight of me. Eleanor, he said, my name soft with recognition and something like wonder. Hello, James, I managed, moving forward on unsteady legs. For a moment, we simply looked at each other, two people connected by a brief past and an unexpected, permanent bond. Then his gaze shifted to Tyler, who had risen from the couch and stood beside Richard, the resemblance between biological father and son, unmistakable now that they occupied the same space. Tyler, James said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm very glad to meet you. Tyler nodded, his own voice carefully controlled. Likewise. An awkward silence descended, broken by Richard stepping forward. Richard Mitchell, he introduced himself, extending a hand. Tyler's father. The deliberate claim, spoken without hostility, but with unmistakable meaning, set the tone for what followed. James accepted the handshake, his expression acknowledging the complex reality before him. I understand, he said simply, and I respect that completely. With introductions complete, we moved to the living room. James declined coffee but accepted water, his gaze repeatedly drawn to Tyler, as if memorizing his features. I don't quite know where to begin, James admitted, setting his glass carefully on a coaster. I've imagined this meeting 1,000 times since I received that DNA notification, but now, perhaps with why you're here, Richard suggested, his tone neutral but direct. Your intentions regarding Tyler. James nodded, accepting the directness. Of course. First and foremost, I wanted to meet you, he said, addressing Tyler directly, to see for myself the son I never knew I had. to answer any questions you might have about me, about your biological heritage. And the trust? Sophia prompted, her professional role momentarily dominating. Yes, the trust, James acknowledged. I won't pretend it's not a consideration. The Davis family trust is substantial, and your appearance, Tyler, does raise certain complications. We understand those complications cut both ways, Richard noted. Adding another beneficiary impacts existing shares significantly. James's expression remained carefully neutral. It does, which is why I've come with a proposal, one I hope demonstrates both my recognition of Tyler's rightful place in my biological lineage and my respect for the family that raised him. He nodded to Sophia, who withdrew a document from her briefcase and handed it to our attorney. As she reviewed it, James continued, I'm proposing a separate settlement for Tyler, distinct from but equal in value to what my other children will eventually receive from the main trust. It would be established immediately, with funds accessible upon completion of his education. Richard leaned forward. And what would be the value of this settlement? Approximately $10 million, James stated matter-of-factly. Tax advantage through a specific structure my attorneys have designed. The figure hung in the air between us. $10 million. A life-changing sum, offered to the son James had never known. Tyler broke the silence, his voice steady despite the shock I knew he must be feeling. And what would you expect from me in return? James looked surprised by the question. Nothing specific, though I would hope we might establish some kind of relationship moving forward. I understand you're completing your biochemistry degree. I'd like to learn more about your interests, your goals. And your family? I asked, speaking up for the first time since introductions. Charlotte, your other children, how do they feel about this proposal? Something flickered across James's face. Discomfort, perhaps, or hesitation. Charlotte supports my decision to acknowledge Tyler properly. As for my children, he paused. They're still adjusting to the news. Richard and I exchanged glances, both recognizing the careful wording that suggested less than enthusiastic acceptance from James's existing family. This is generous, Tyler said carefully, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable accepting such a large sum simply because of a biological connection. I didn't seek you out for money. James nodded, something like respect flickering in his expression. I understand that. But regardless of how we've come to know each other, you are my son. And in my family, that comes with certain birthrights. Sophia passed the document to Richard, who scanned it with the careful attention he gave to all legal matters. The terms seemed straightforward, he acknowledged, though we'd need time to review everything thoroughly. Of course, James agreed. There's no rush on the financial aspects. Today is about beginning to know each other. What followed was a careful dance of disclosure and discovery. Tyler asked questions about James's background, his career as an artist turned gallery owner, his family history. James responded openly, occasionally asking questions of his own about Tyler's upbringing and interests. Throughout, Richard remained beside Tyler, a steady presence marking his enduring role as father. I sat slightly apart, watching the three men navigate this unprecedented situation, with a mix of caution and genuine curiosity. You have his artistic eye, James noted at one point, after Tyler mentioned his photography hobby. And his hands, he added, glancing at me with a private smile. Eleanor always said my hands were made for creating. The casual reference to our past relationship sent a flush of discomfort through me. Richard's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, a reminder that wounds were still raw. As the conversation progressed, something began to shift in James's demeanor, a slight tension, a growing discomfort I couldn't immediately place. It wasn't until he checked his watch for the third time that I realized he seemed anxious about the time. Is everything all right? I asked during a brief lull. James hesitated, then sighed. I should be honest. This meeting isn't entirely private. Richard frowned. What do you mean? Before James could answer, the doorbell rang again, an unexpected intrusion that sent a spike of alarm through me. Tyler rose to answer it, returning moments later with a stunned expression. Mom, Dad, it's Charlotte, and there are 3 people with her. James closed his eyes briefly, resignation evident in his posture. My wife and children. They insisted on coming to Portland with me, though I'd planned to meet Tyler alone first. Sure enough, Charlotte entered our living room, as immaculately styled as during her previous visit, but with a harder set to her mouth. Behind her followed 3 young adults, a young woman who must be Amber, about 19, and twin boys who appeared to be in their mid-teens. All 3 stared at Tyler with undisguised curiosity and varying degrees of hostility. "I apologize for the intrusion," Charlotte said, her southern politeness barely masking tension. But after much discussion, we felt this should be a full family meeting. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly from cautious optimism to barely contained confrontation. Sophia straightened, her professional instincts clearly on high alert. "Charlotte," James said, his tone carrying a warning. "We discussed this." "Yes, we did," she replied evenly. "And then I discussed it with our children, who have every right to meet the person being offered a significant portion of their inheritance." Tyler stepped back slightly, moving closer to Richard and me. "I haven't accepted anything," he said carefully. "We're still just getting to know each other." Amber, James's daughter, stepped forward. With her father's height and her mother's blonde coloring, she carried herself with confidence that bordered on aggression. "That's precisely the point," she said, her Georgia accent more pronounced than her parents'. "This getting to know each other comes with a $10 million price tag. Don't you think we should all be part of that conversation?" Richard stood, his protective instincts clearly triggered. "I think this meeting has taken an unexpected turn. Perhaps we should reschedule when everyone has had time to..." "Time to what?" one of the twins interrupted. "Time to carve up our trust behind our backs?" "Marcus," James reprimanded sharply. "That's enough." Charlotte placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "It's not enough, actually. These children have spent their entire lives understanding their financial future. Now suddenly there's a new sibling claiming a share, based on a relationship that existed before any of them were born." "I'm not claiming anything," Tyler objected. "I didn't even know about James until my DNA test results came back." "How convenient," Amber remarked, skepticism evident. "Take a DNA test for biology class and discover a multi-million-dollar trust fund." The accusation hung in the air, ugly in its implication. I stood quickly, maternal protectiveness flaring. "That's completely unfair," I stated firmly. "Tyler had no knowledge of your family or the trust until after the DNA match was made. Charlotte came to me, not the other way around." Charlotte's gaze turned to me, cold and assessing. "Yes, let's talk about that. You knew who my husband was. You knew he came from a wealthy family, yet you claim you never tried to contact him about your pregnancy?" "I didn't know about the trust," I insisted. "James and I never discussed family wealth. And by the time I discovered I was pregnant, I had already met Richard. I made a choice, the wrong one perhaps, in not telling either of them the truth, but it wasn't financially motivated." The other twin, slightly taller than his brother, scoffed audibly. "So you just happened to keep quiet about a baby that would have had a trust fund?" "That's enough." Richard's voice cut through the rising tension, authoritative and firm. "Whatever Eleanor's reasons were 24 years ago, Tyler has been my son in every way that matters. He didn't ask for this situation, and he doesn't deserve your suspicion or hostility." James looked between his wife, his known children, and the newly discovered son who resembled him so clearly. Conflict played across his features, duty to the family he'd built versus obligation to the son he'd never known. "Perhaps," Sophia suggested, her calm voice a counterpoint to the emotional current in the room, "we should take a step back. This meeting has expanded beyond its intended parameters. Maybe separate discussions would be more productive at this stage." "No," Tyler said suddenly, his voice stronger than I'd heard it in weeks. "No more separate discussions, no more secrets, no more behind-the-scenes negotiations. If we're going to resolve this, let's do it now, with everyone present." He turned to face Amber and the twins directly. "I understand why you're upset. This is shocking for all of us. 3 weeks ago, I believed Richard Mitchell was my biological father. I had no idea about James, about any of you, about the trust. My entire identity has been upended, just like your financial expectations have been." His directness seemed to surprise the Davis siblings, momentarily silencing their objections. "I don't want to disrupt your family," Tyler continued, "and I don't need your money. What I wanted was to understand where I came from, to know the other half of my biological heritage. That's all." James stepped forward, placing a hand on Tyler's shoulder, the first physical contact between biological father and son. "And you deserve that knowledge, regardless of financial considerations." Charlotte's expression softened slightly. "No one is suggesting otherwise, James. but you can't pretend that trust isn't a factor. It's irresponsible to make unilateral decisions about family assets without consulting the family. Mom's right, Amber added, her tone less antagonistic. It's not about Tyler personally. It's about changing the rules without discussion. Richard, ever the mediator, suggested, perhaps there's a middle ground, a way to acknowledge Tyler's legitimate connection to the Davis family without disrupting existing expectations. For the next 2 hours, our living room became an unlikely negotiation chamber. The initial hostility gradually gave way to cautious problem-solving. Sophia and James's attorney, summoned by phone, explored various options for structuring a settlement that would satisfy all parties. Throughout the complex discussion, I watched Tyler, my son, our son, navigate the situation with growing confidence. He listened carefully to the Davis siblings' concerns, acknowledged their perspective, and articulated his own position with clarity and maturity. What if, he proposed eventually, any settlement established for me was specifically earmarked for educational or charitable purposes, not personal wealth, but a dedicated fund for specific uses? The suggestion caught everyone's attention. What do you mean? James asked. I've always wanted to establish a research foundation, Tyler explained, focused on rare genetic disorders. My roommate's sister has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and seeing their families struggle to find adequate treatment. He shrugged. That's actually why I got interested in biochemistry in the first place. The proposal shifted the energy in the room dramatically. Suddenly, the discussion wasn't about dividing a pie, but about creating something new, something meaningful that might benefit others. Even Amber seemed intrigued. That's actually a pretty good idea. A Davis Family Foundation with a specific research focus, with Tyler as its director, James suggested. Drawing a reasonable salary, but with the bulk of the funds dedicated to the foundation's mission. By late afternoon, an unexpected consensus had emerged. The Davis family, all of them, including Tyler, would establish a new charitable foundation, funded initially from the trust, but potentially expanded through additional fundraising. Tyler would lead the research direction, with Amber, who was studying finance, potentially involved in administration. As Charlotte and the twins prepared to leave, there was a palpable easing of tension. Not friendship, certainly, but the beginning of a grudging acceptance. We're staying in Portland until Monday, James said as the meeting wound down. Perhaps we could have dinner tomorrow, just to talk, no business. Tyler glanced at Richard and me before nodding. I'd like that. After they left, the three of us sat in silence, processing the unexpected direction the day had taken. Are you okay? I asked Tyler finally. He considered the question seriously. I think so. It wasn't what I expected, but... He looked at Richard. What do you think, Dad? About the foundation idea? Richard's expression softened at Tyler's continued use of Dad, a reassurance that their bond remained intact. I think it shows remarkable maturity and compassion, using unexpected resources to help others. I couldn't be prouder of you. The simple praise brought tears to Tyler's eyes. Even though I'm not, you are, Richard interrupted firmly. You are my son. Biology doesn't change that. As Tyler excused himself to call Jessica and share the day's developments, Richard and I were left alone in the living room that had just hosted our family's most significant confrontation. That was unexpected, I ventured, still processing everything that had occurred. Richard nodded, exhaustion evident in the lines of his face. Tyler handled it well. He did, I agreed. You raised him well. We did, Richard corrected quietly. Whatever mistakes we made, Ellie, we raised a good man together. The acknowledgement, the inclusion of me in Tyler's successful raising, felt like the first real step toward healing. Not forgiveness, not yet, but recognition of our shared achievement despite the lie that had undermined our marriage. As Richard gathered his things to leave, he paused by the door. I've been thinking about what you said, about making choices, about not giving me the chance to choose for myself. I waited, heart pounding, for whatever would come next. I'm angry about that, he continued. I probably will be for a long time, but watching Tyler today, seeing the man he's become, the way he handled himself under pressure, he shook his head slightly. I can't regret being his father, and if knowing the truth at the beginning would have prevented that, then maybe. He didn't finish the thought, but he didn't need to. In his own way, Richard was acknowledging that my lie, however wrong, had given him something precious, the opportunity to be Tyler's father without the complication of known biology. "Thank you," I whispered, "for being here today, for standing by him through all of this." Richard nodded. "I'll see you tomorrow. We should talk before Tyler meets with James again." It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't forgiveness. But as I watched him walk to his car, I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. Hope that from the wreckage of deception and revelation, something new might eventually emerge. Not the marriage we had before, but perhaps a different kind of connection. One built on honesty, on shared history, on the son we both loved beyond measure. The confrontation I had feared for 23 years had finally occurred. The truth was fully exposed. To Tyler, to Richard, and now to James and his family. And while the aftermath was complex and painful, it was also filled with unexpected possibilities. The foundation of lies had crumbled, but from its ruins, we might yet build something authentic and enduring. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn morning, I stood in the lobby of the Portland Convention Center, watching as Tyler adjusted his tie before stepping up to the podium. Behind him, a large banner proclaimed, "Davis Mitchell Foundation for Genetic Research, Launch Gala." From my position near the back of the crowded room, I could see James and Charlotte seated in the front row, their expressions a mixture of pride and lingering adjustment to their expanded family reality. Beside them sat Amber, who had surprised everyone by throwing herself enthusiastically into the foundation's development, discovering a genuine connection with the half-brother she'd initially resented. Richard stood near the side entrance, tall and distinguished in his charcoal suit. He caught my eye across the room and offered a small nod, a simple acknowledgement that contained a world of meaning after our difficult journey of the past half-year. "Good morning, everyone," Tyler began, his voice confident as it carried through the state-of-the-art sound system. "Thank you for joining us for this momentous occasion. The Davis Mitchell Foundation represents more than just a new research initiative. It symbolizes how unexpected challenges can transform into opportunities when approached with honesty, compassion, and a commitment to the greater good." As he outlined the Foundation's mission, funding research into rare genetic disorders and providing support for affected families, I felt a surge of pride so intense, it brought tears to my eyes. This poised, articulate young man had somehow emerged stronger from the family earthquake that might have destroyed someone less resilient. "None of this would be possible without the support of both my families," Tyler continued, gesturing toward the front row where James sat, then to Richard at the side of the room. "I've been fortunate enough to be shaped by two extraordinary fathers, one who raised me with love and guidance every day of my life, and one who, though he entered my life only recently, has embraced me with remarkable generosity and acceptance." The public acknowledgement of both men, so carefully balanced, reflected Tyler's diplomatic handling of the complex family dynamics that had emerged since the DNA test revelation. After the presentation, during the reception, I found myself momentarily alone, watching the various branches of our unusual family constellation interact. Richard and James speaking cordially by the bar, their initial tension having gradually evolved into a cautious mutual respect. Tyler introducing Jessica to some of the physicians who would serve on the Foundation's advisory board, Amber and the twins, who had eventually come around to accepting Tyler, particularly once they understood their own inheritances would remain intact, sampling hors d'oeuvres and chatting with guests. "Quite something, isn't it?" Megan appeared beside me, champagne flute in hand. "6 months ago, your world was falling apart. Now look at all this. It's still complicated," I admitted. "But yes, it's better than I could have imagined back then." "And you and Richard?" she asked carefully. "Any progress?" I sighed, watching my estranged husband across the room. "Baby steps. We're in counseling now, separately and occasionally together, learning to build something new from the wreckage." The divorce papers Richard had initially sought remained unfiled, though we continued to live separately. Our weekly counseling sessions had helped us begin to navigate the betrayal, grief, and possibility that existed between us. "He still loves you," Megan observed. "Anyone with eyes can see that." "Maybe," I allowed, "but love isn't always enough. Trust matters too, and I destroyed that. Trust can be rebuilt," she reminded me. "It takes time, but it's possible." Before I could respond, Tyler approached, slipping an arm around my shoulders. "How's it going, Mom? You doing okay?" His concern, so like Richard's habitual attentiveness, warmed my heart. "I'm fine. Just taking it all in. You were wonderful up there." "Thanks." He grinned, the familiar expression momentarily erasing the sophisticated young executive and revealing the boy I'd raised. "Listen, Dad suggested we all have dinner afterward. You, me, him, and James and Charlotte, if that's not too weird." The invitation reflected how far we'd come, from bitter confrontation to cautious coexistence. "Not too weird at all," I assured him. "It would be nice." As Tyler moved away to greet more guests, Richard approached, 2 glasses of water in hand. He offered one to me wordlessly, a small courtesy that spoke volumes about his enduring consideration despite our strained relationship. "Tyler did well," he said, standing beside me at a distance that was neither intimate nor cold. "Very professional." "He gets that from you," I replied. "That ability to command a room without seeming to try." Richard's lips curved slightly. "Perhaps, though his passion for the research, that reminds me of you. The way you light up when discussing literature you love." The observation surprised me, that he still noticed such things, still connected my traits to our sons. "Thank you for supporting him in this. It means everything to him." Richard nodded, his gaze moving to where Tyler stood chatting animatedly with a researcher from Oregon Health Sciences University. "It's a good cause, and it's given him purpose through all this upheaval." We stood in companionable silence for a moment before Richard spoke again, his voice lower. "Our therapist suggested I ask you something I've been avoiding." My pulse quickened nervously. "What's that?" "Why you stayed." He turned slightly to face me directly. "You could have left at any point during our marriage, taken the secret with you. Why stay for 25 years in a relationship built on deception?" The question, so fundamental yet never directly addressed, caught me off guard. "Because I loved you," I said simply. "Every day of those 25 years. The lie was about Tyler's biology, not about my feelings for you." Richard's expression remained carefully neutral. "Even knowing the truth might eventually come out? That discovery would likely end things between us?" "Even then," I confirmed. "I told myself the risk was worth it, worth having those years with you, worth giving Tyler a stable family, worth building the life we shared." I paused, gathering courage for complete honesty. "And selfishly, worth protecting myself from losing you." He considered this, sipping his water thoughtfully. "I've been angry about the lie for months now, focusing on the deception, the choices taken from me." His gaze met mine directly. "But I haven't really considered what it cost you to maintain it. The fear you must have lived with all those years." The unexpected empathy brought a lump to my throat. "It wasn't your burden to consider." "No, but understanding it might help me process what happened." He set his glass down on a nearby table. "I'm not saying I'm ready to forgive everything, Ellie, but I am trying to understand." Before I could respond, James approached, introducing a potential donor to us both. The moment of connection was interrupted but not forgotten, a small bridge extending across the chasm between us. The gala concluded successfully, with pledges exceeding Tyler's most optimistic projections. Afterward, our unusual blended family gathered at an upscale restaurant downtown, Richard, James, Charlotte, Tyler, Jessica, and me, for a dinner that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier. The conversation flowed with surprising ease, focusing primarily on the Foundation's future plans and Tyler's upcoming graduation. If there was still tension beneath the surface, and there was, it remained largely submerged beneath a collective commitment to making this new reality work, primarily for Tyler's benefit. After dinner, as we prepared to leave, James pulled me aside briefly. "I wanted to thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" I asked, genuinely puzzled. "For raising him so well," James clarified. "I've gotten to know Tyler these past months, and he's exceptional. That's your doing, yours and Richard's." The acknowledgement, generous considering our complicated history, touched me deeply. "Thank you for saying that. I've wondered sometimes," he continued hesitantly, "what might have happened if you told me about the pregnancy back then, if things might have been different." I considered the alternate life that question suggested, a life where I'd chosen James instead of Richard, where Tyler had grown up knowing his biological father from birth. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think things worked out as they were meant to, despite my mistakes." Tyler has 2 fathers now instead of none, and a foundation that will help countless families. James nodded, a wistful smile touching his lips. The universe works in strange ways, doesn't it? As we parted outside the restaurant, Tyler surprised both Richard and me by suggesting he drive Jessica home, leaving us to share a taxi back to our respective residences. In the quiet intimacy of the cab's back seat, Richard broke the comfortable silence. "I've been thinking about the house." My heart skipped. The house, our family home, had remained in limbo since our separation, with me continuing to live there while Richard stayed at Steve's. What about it? It seems wasteful, me paying rent to Steve when we have a perfectly good house with plenty of space. He kept his gaze fixed on the passing streetlights. "I was thinking I might move back in, to the guest room," he clarified quickly, "just as housemates for now." The proposal, so practical yet so loaded with significance, left me momentarily speechless. "Are you sure? It wouldn't be too difficult?" Richard finally looked at me, his expression open in a way it hadn't been since the revelation. "Probably will be at times, but I miss the house, miss my study, my workshop in the garage, miss the routine." What remained unspoken, whether he missed me as well, hung between us. "I'd like that," I said carefully, "if you think it's the right next step." "I don't know if it's right," he admitted, "but it feels necessary. We can't move forward, whatever forward means for us, by remaining in this holding pattern." When the taxi arrived at our house, Richard hesitated before getting out to continue to Steve's. "I'll call you tomorrow. We can discuss logistics." "Richard," I said impulsively before he could close the door, "thank you for being willing to try." He nodded once, his expression softening slightly. "We built 25 years together, Ellie. That's not nothing. Whatever happens next, we can't pretend those years didn't matter." After he left, I entered our house alone, possibly for one of the last times. In the quiet darkness, I moved through rooms filled with memories. The living room where we'd hosted countless dinner parties, the kitchen where we'd shared morning coffee for decades, the family room where we'd watched Tyler grow from toddler to young man. In Tyler's old bedroom, now used mostly when he visited from his apartment near campus, I sat on the edge of the bed, touching the quilt I'd made for his 16th birthday. On his desk sat the family photographs he'd once turned face down in anger, now proudly displayed again, joined by new images that included James and his family. Not replacements, but additions. An expanded understanding of family, rather than a rejection of the one he'd always known. My phone chimed with a text from Tyler. "Made it home safe. Today was amazing. Love you, Mom." The simple message, so routine yet so precious after the period when he'd barely spoken to me, brought tears to my eyes. Despite everything, the lies, the revelations, the painful reckonings, my son still loved me. And Richard, while not yet ready to forgive completely, was willing to take steps toward some new version of our relationship. 6 months ago, I had believed my life was ending, that the secret I'd carried for 23 years would destroy everything I cherished when exposed. Instead, its revelation had forced a painful but necessary honesty that, while devastating in the moment, had created space for something potentially stronger to emerge. The truth, I realized, wasn't the enemy I'd feared for so long. It was simply reality, complicated, messy, sometimes painful, but ultimately freeing. By facing it, by living in it fully, I had discovered a resilience in myself, in Richard, and especially in Tyler that I might never have known otherwise. As I prepared for bed in what had once been our shared bedroom, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Not the false peace of secrets successfully kept, but the authentic tranquility of living without fear of discovery. Whatever happened between Richard and me, whether we eventually rebuilt our marriage or evolved into some different kind of partnership, we would face it honestly, together. And that, I now understood, was the most I could ask for, and more than I had dared to hope.